Hello, my name is Marissa Moloto, and I am a speech therapist working at the Western Cape Forum for Intellectual Disability. Today I'm going to be exploring the idea that children with severe to profound intellectual disability can learn. In this video, I will focus on understanding the different learning areas, early learning and lifelong learning, learning through education and care, and the development of skills. Now, let's start by looking at what is learning. The definition of learning is gaining knowledge or skills. This can happen through teaching, experience, or dedicating time to practice or study. Children with intellectual disabilities are often viewed as unable to learn and not able to learn anything new. This is a myth, and in fact, people with intellectual disability can and do learn. When understanding intellectual disability and how it affects different learning areas, we often only think of the disability as the main focus. Rather, every child learns and develops skills in different learning areas. So what are the main learning areas of development? There are 4 main learning areas of development, also referred to as development areas: physical or body, cognitive or mental ability or mind, social or communication, and functional ability. In each of these areas, the child develops skills in a step-by-step process and in a certain order. Typical or normal development is defined as average or expected on-time growth based on the improvement of specific physical, mental, social, and functional milestones across specific age groups. We will be looking at development of skills a little later on. With children with intellectual disability, we can use typical developmental milestones as a guide because we're always aiming to get the child to the next stage of skills development. When understanding learning or developmental areas, children with severe to profound intellectual disability, we need to keep in mind that physical or body needs to include aspects such as gross and fine motor, meaning big and small muscle movements, sensory motor, which involves the body senses and movements, cognitive or mental ability, includes understanding everyday objects, understanding concepts like the body, colors, shapes, patterns, or numbers, being able to have some memory and concentration skills. Social skills include communication to understand others or express themselves, sharing and engaging socially with others. Social emotional abilities like expressing emotions appropriately to individuals or in groups. Functional ability include everyday activities of living like eating, dressing, toileting, or bathing, playing appropriately with objects or people, and playing with purpose or meaning. Early and lifelong learning. There are different stages of development and a range of factors that influence development for children with intellectual disability. Let's move on to early learning and lifelong learning. Early learning means that a child needs early stimulation and learning for achieving the best development potential. Through early learning experiences and learning opportunities, children develop the foundations for increased ability and future potential. When a child has developmental delays, the child needs early stimulation and activities to help them develop all areas of their body and mind. This is why early learning is so important, especially to our children with severe to profound intellectual disability. Development of all children is shaped by many different factors, including early stimulation, not only the intellectual disability itself. Some of these factors include social, psychological, and biological factors, which influence our development, especially in the early years. The environment and the context we live in influences our learning opportunities, our health, and our family structure. This is no different for a child with intellectual disability. It is important to remember that the earlier we start learning and stimulating the development, the better it will be later on for the learner with severe to profound intellectual disability. When it comes to learning, it is important to know that human development is continuous and should be seen as a lifelong process. Lifelong learning. When looking at learning, having a lifespan perspective is important when considering development of children and young adults with intellectual disability. Learning is lifelong as personal growth continues throughout a person's lifespan, and we learn through different experiences over time. Play. Early stimulation and learning for children with intellectual disability should include play because children learn through play. Play is the most effective way to support a child's development and well-being. When we play, we give children time to engage with activities to help their development. We learn through play with movement, touch, objects or toys, songs, smiles, and using body language. Play is also the best way in which a child can learn and build new knowledge or experience in. Children play naturally, and when we want to teach them anything, if we use play, we can encourage learning in a fun and exciting way, while still motivating them to practice new skills. Play allows children to use their creativity while developing their imagination, functional skills, and physical, cognitive, and emotional strengths. Play is important for healthy brain development, and it is through play that children at a very early age learn to engage and interact in and with the world around them. Play allows children with severe to profound intellectual disability to create and explore the world and conquer their fears. When we as adults and caregivers play with our children, we teach them to develop new abilities that lead to enhanced confidence and the courage or resilience they will need to face future challenges. Let's move on to education and care. It is important to remember that education does not just happen in formal education settings. Education is learning, and learning can happen any and everywhere. With our children who have intellectual disability, education happens through care. How we care and nurture our children with special needs is an important part of their development. We can help them learn every day by speaking to them about something new in their environment, or just by caring for their daily needs. When we care for children with intellectual disability, we can teach them through how we interact physically with them and how we use language to teach them new concepts. Learning does not only need to happen at a school setting, but can happen in a child's own home or community that they live in. We can help children with severe and profound intellectual disabilities learn by giving them early stimulation, but also consistent stimulus in their everyday lives. Stimulation and learning can happen everywhere if we take the opportunity to use it. Stimulation in learning simply means encouraging and motivating learning through different ways and means. Sometimes children might need a motivating toy to help them do a specific task. Other times, a child might benefit from a communication book made specifically for them in order to remember something that they have learned. It is important to know that education and care can work simultaneously, and they are not concepts that function in separate settings. Learning can in fact happen through the care and stimulation of children with intellectual disability. The last topic I want to talk about is development of skills. Development is a process and can be seen as the path towards learning new skills. Development has been divided into a few different areas to make each area easier to understand and to monitor. The development of skills work together at the same time to produce a variety of abilities in a child. These different development areas overlap and mature simultaneously at the same time and not in isolation. All development areas should be considered together in reality and not separate one skill from another. The development of skills is also commonly known as developmental milestones, which are typical or average markers in a child's development. These markers of skills are to measure growth when a child reaches different levels of achievements. These average milestones have been worked out according to when the majority of children are expected to achieve a specific developmental skill within a certain time frame or average range over time. When understanding that children with severe to profound intellectual disability can learn, we need to also remember that we need to change our expectations of the child before we try to teach. We are encouraged to follow the typical developmental guidelines, but we need to adapt and modify strategies according to each child's ability. We also need to change the way we teach so that our children with intellectual disability can learn differently by making learning more interactive and fun.